I might green screen back there.
Yeah, you have blue.
I know, I got a blue shirt. It's kind of a.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I know, I got the writing on the wall.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Green Room. Dr. Barry's being green screened out.
I should have like something like this announcement is just that.
Yeah, you should have something cool.
Well, we had the green screen back there.
We do.
And everything. You can't wear green at the green room.
No, you always forget.
So this is kind of a blue.
That's a blue green.
I know,
it's
kind
of
funny.
Green.
Well,
I know, it's kind of odd.
First of all, listen, welcome to the Green Room, everybody.
Yeah,
what a crazy time, week, era. It's funny, I was driving here this morning and I was thinking about it because what would we always have in the past years this week in the Green Room? Nate Eaches, Reggie Williams, our football players. It's Super Bowl week.
Oh my God, I forgot it's Super Bowl
week.
It
is.
Yeah,
and isn't that just a statement as to the craziness of the world, of the era, of this cannabis season this year, of a legislative time? However it is, we're going to start the Green Room today. And listen, we can talk national, we can talk state. Listen, there's a hearing at the Supreme Court today to determine whether the insurrection. I want to be careful on how I speak. We know we have some very big watchers.
Oh, I don't
care. No, I know. I'm trying not to insult anybody, but I believe that Trump is an insurrectionist. Well, they showed the picture this morning with him standing there like this, and he called the crowd there. He gave the speech. He would have gone to the Capitol if they would have let him.
Oh, if they would have let him,
of course.
He would have been the first one. They are thinking he's like Mr. Hero.
So we're here with the Supreme Court decide this morning, literally whether he should be allowed to get back into the Oval Office where he may never leave again.
That's the problem. He may never leave till he dies.
And there's debate over whether or not the Supreme Court can make a legitimate, conscious, constitutional decision, or whether they have to worry about how the public's going to respond. And I say that, no, listen, you got to make these decisions based upon what the Constitution says, what it calls for.
Well, the only problem,
and it's a scary time is the point.
The only problem with the Constitution, and this is it, I think the forefathers actually thought that people had more common sense and they would elect a leader that's not psychotic. I think that's the foundation.
It's just,
I think they never thought that something like this would even occur.
Well, such a bizarre time. So just to wrap up the opening, I mean, it is Super Bowl week. Shout out to all of our.
I don't even know who's in it because
that's the point. So it's San Francisco and Kansas City.
Oh, Kansas City's in there a lot.
They are.
That's
That's Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
So but you have to know, like Tiff's behind the screen this week, and she knows of all such things better than I. I mean, there's I don't know why I say that, but she has a good eye on the Facebook and this, that. There's this whole conspiracy theory thing that Taylor Swift is a plant because the Chiefs are going to win. She's going to endorse Biden for presidency, and she was on the cover of Time magazine.
Oh no,
as Times Person of the Year.
No, really,
So she's got a concert in Japan. She's got to fly back. She's got to fly back after the concert, land in Vegas, and then get. So it's a whole big this and that.
That's stupid.
But there literally is these conspiracy theories.
Well, there's also
government connected, deep. Well, it's jealous.
It's jealousy. There's a lot of jealousy. And I think the Republicans just can't stand that there's a woman who's young, she's pretty, she's super talented, super smart.
Well, that's why I still like Nikki Haley saying, come on, Donald. That's why I still like Nikki Haley, even though I don't like her politics. But I still like her saying, DeSantis' stance is interesting right now, too. Because I think we talked about it in last week's Green Room, but he continues to have this national kind of focus, calling for term limits at the national level, that. But it's interesting because if Trump does end up not being able, what if the Supreme Court does come out and say, you know what? He is an insurrectionist. We can't let him on the ballot. What if they make that stand? Do I think that would happen? I think Clarence Thomas would have to.
No, but I think Nikki Haley then would be on the ticket because then DeSantis already stepped away. So once he steps away, he can't come back.
Last person standing to a certain extent. But there are conventions. And things like that too.
By that time, if you don't have the money, you don't have anything.
But it's a crazy world these days, and you really don't know how things are going to shake. What's going to come down.
Kudos to, like I said, to Taylor Swift, just so that I think she's going to get people to go and vote, which is crazy that it takes a pop star to do that. But hey, whatever works.
Well, no, I mean, it's a pretty superficial society.
It is a superficial society.
To that extent. Actually, right. There's influences and influencers, from every
angle.
It's
really funny because even Barbie, which is nominated for an Oscar.
Sure.
Barbie, like if you think about it, it was so, and it's so pro woke.
Right.
And yet all these Republican Barbie doll women are going out there thinking it's not. And then all of a sudden the husband's like, wait a minute, this message is really woke. Hello.
So anyway, so
It's
it's
funny.
Super Bowl week, and that would be our topic. But there's so
Yeah.
much going on
Oh,
up in
a lot going
Tallahassee.
on, a lot going on.
Up to the second update, actually, is that House Bill 1869, which is the Representative Mazzullo preemptive attempt to, start to discuss what's going to be going on in that legal adult use market,
Should
which
it
hasn't even
happen?
been voted on.
Yeah, it's not even up. It's not
So
even
it's
been on the-
preemptive,
it
but
is
it's been a
preemptive.
very interesting session. But anyway,
It's been
even
a good, but it's actually the bill itself. Like I know there's a lot of people against it, like the hempsters especially. But I'm sorry, I was really proud of Mazzullo. I
No.
think his foresight and his protection of medical was awesome.
Oh no, for sure.
Was
And
awesome.
we had our doctor meeting last night, and we actually have offered up an amendment. So anyway, so the bill got postponed from this week's House committee apparently to next week. So it's not going to go away. And actually, we're only halfway through session,
Yeah.
and
think
there's still a lot of time for them to
I
do
think
things.
a lot of things came up because of that bill, and I think there's a lot of good debate and a lot of good question. I think, again, for the hemp space, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. I have a lot of.
Here's how I come down on it
but-
at this particular point in time. There's 3 separate lanes right now, and there's going to be 3.5 separate lanes, maybe 3 or 4 years from now, after the citizens, I suspect, will pass
We'll
legal
pass
adult
it,
use.
if it goes on the ballot. Yeah.
Medical is medical.
Yeah.
We need to maintain the foundation of medical.
Yeah, we do.
Better products, continued research,
Yeah.
labeling, testing.
Testing, everything that happens in our space.
Everything that happens in our space, the education, the safety, every bit of
all
it. And that's not a given. If you've seen other states,
No, it's not.
it's gone away as legal adult use has come in if you don't protect your medical. So one of the great things, and we haven't seen necessarily what Representative Mazzullo means when he talks about protecting medical, but it's good that the discussion is there and seems to be a foundation. If you look at the back, it's the wall, that they're building here in Florida, a piece by piece cannabis space, so to speak. But medical is the foundation. Of course, we have. And listen, I mean to insult nobody, and I mean it, and I try to choose my words carefully, and I do, because this is always going to be up. It's a public forum. So my friends in the hemp space, I think the best name for them at this particular point are they are cannabinoid purveyors. That's what they do. They sell cannabinoids in their CBD shops, some very excellent, in the gas stations. Obviously, who would buy it there, but people do, and everywhere in between, smoke shops, this, that, whatever. But as we talked about in last week's Green Room, my new talk, it used to be so easy in the old days. It was pot, dope, weed, grass. It was Delta 9 product through your buddy or whatever, and it couldn't kill you because there was no fentanyl around, And in general, you knew what you got. It was illegal. You had to keep it away from your parents, whatever. The workplace, of course, right? Couldn't talk about it in public forum. It was a different world. It was illegal everywhere. Here, we have the legal here, illegal there. People come down from Canada and up north. They don't have a cannabis card. What are they going to do? Well, they have choices. They can come in through the medical program, if they have a qualifying condition, or don't really understand that there is an advocacy arm with the appropriate understanding of how the law is written. Quite frankly, nobody should be unsafe in the cannabis market. So if you're a safe consumer up north, you need to be a safe consumer in Florida, and the only way to achieve that, quite frankly, is coming in through medical right now.
It is, and that's what I wanted to say, because you said like the cannabinoid.
Well, they're cannabinoid purveyors.
They are, but it's kind of a misnomer too, because it's not a pure. What they're doing is not pure.
Well, they are cannabinoids, but the point is they're not sourced cannabinoids in the way that we would want them to be, and that's why it's so confusing these days, because of the Farm Bill and the loopholes. The hemp derived Delta 9 products, the THCA, hemp derived pre-rolls and flour that you can find in smoke shops, right? We don't know if there's product that those are hemp products that are sprayed with a Delta 9 oil or sprayed with a Delta 8 oil. You really don't.
Do you want your grandmother or grandfather who doesn't know any better, like you said, coming down from Canada and God forbid they have cancer or something, and they're going in and ingesting this. It's
and it
crap
is
so many
confusing,
times, and it's
but
not good.
also on the other side, just to the credit, but so those are what would be called the quote unquote intoxicating cannabinoids, the mind, mental altering cannabinoids. Once again, 8, 9 for sure, of course, but 10 and 6. There's O and there's HHC too. But the point is, there's beautiful minor cannabinoids, CBD, CBC, CBG, CBN, that are not necessarily mentally, of course, intoxicating or affecting. They can affect mood and depression and anxiety, but they're safe, of course. So they all get mixed together is the point in this soup,
But
so to
that's why
speak,
it's not
which
controlled,
it's not.
it's not.
So what I've
It's
always
really
called
frightening.
for, and I guess it's kind of a green room staple, is that, listen, these products are going to be sold in Florida. The cat's out of that bag. So, and I don't know why it hasn't been discussed, and it continues to bother me that it hasn't been discussed. But what's needed in Florida is a central testing lab at the state level
100%.
where every product that comes in or is manufactured in Florida, that's the problem. Things come in from out of state too. Okay.
But this is the thing. So if you were a hemp purveyor, wouldn't you be a proponent of making it safe and wanting the testing? This is where
absolutely, the good ones do. And I shout out those that speak
the ones that do
to that.
That's good. And then it's up on this to the state. If the products are coming from another state and they're not quality tested,
I just see it as such a disorganized community. I just see it as such a disorganized community this year. Last year, there seemed to be, they surely had, I think, more lobbying money last year. I don't know. I don't want to be disingenuous about it to that extent, because, that's a side, part of it. But it just seems like there's no hemp czar, so to speak, no central spokesman who can offer some degree of compromise. But my point is that that's that space also that's there. And then, of course, we have the legacy market space, right? Which we know no one should have to go into. It's illegal. It's unsafe. And listen, when you're of a certain age coming down from the north, that's just, no one should have to do that. So it's always buyer beware. But my point is, we have to recognize that in 2024. And I do give Representative Mazzullo all the credit in the world. One thing he said that I do agree with. He believes that the citizens of Florida should understand what it is that they're voting for, before they go to the polls. And as he said, in the medical vote zone, people really didn't understand what it was that they were voting for, at least in their. So I can't argue with any of what he says.
No, and honestly, 20 things on the ballot, I would say probably 90% of the people don't know. And this is, I'm sorry to say, but it's kind of a fact. And we know that most of the questions people just don't understand.
Well, the point is, listen, if you put 100 people in a questionnaire about the cannabinoids, they're not going to know.
Oh God, nobody's going to know that.
Very few.
Even go inside the dispensaries and they won't know half of it.
You know what? I heard something very interesting yesterday, because we have one of our dispensary reps in, and it's interesting when a cancer patient comes into the dispensary and they actually tell the dispensary worker that they have cancer. Many times that knee-jerk response by the person behind the window at the MMTC will go right to Rick Simpson oil, right to the strongest Rick Simpson oil, be one of the stronger products into the dispensary, all THC. Excellent product, don't get me wrong, but it's meant for certain purposes. A newbie who's never used a cannabis product should not start with Rick Simpson oil. They need a balanced product of THC and CBD in a small amount. It is the lack of education,
which is so needed. So,
it is, and that's why we continue to. So the House hearing was canceled this morning. That's what I put up on my Facebook post yesterday. I was going to have to hit the button to pause the House hearing for the green room, and they go back to it. But it didn't happen. But I do want to say a couple things about the House hearing. We've actually, as the group of doctors, we met last night. Very active group of doctors, Florida Medical Cannabis Group, and we've been meeting for well over 3 years. And here's the good news, and I believe this, and I want to give a shout out to Rep Mazzullo or any of his others that are watching up there. Thank you so much for listening to us. He's met with us, and we've seen the evolution of his understanding, and that's why I think they went from that flower cap of 10%, which was just made no sense at all, to the 30% without a lot of debate, which was interesting, because after the hemp bill debate, talking about potency and this and that, people ending up in the ER and ending up eating out of the dumpsters. Every bad story in the book, quite frankly, that's another entire green room. But the point is, Rip Mazzullo understands that it's really not flower that I think is what they're concerned about. It's the concentrates, it's the edibles, right? It's those products that the newbie can wander into, so to speak, no matter what age they are, or a child, okay? Those are the products that can have that lasting
Because the
effect.
smoking, it's a little bit different. Most, the average, like Floridian, even under medical, like
I spoke,
it's
listen,
not
I
everybody that
spoke to
does
it
that,
in the doctor group last night, and I say this. We offered an amendment to Representative Mazzullo's bill, and I don't think that's why it was pulled or postponed, but hopefully it'll give it another week for him to percolate it in his office. He has it in his hands. The doctor group wants an OMU-based doctor, okay, advisory group, okay, to assist them as we go forward with all of these issues in medical, in the hemp space, in legal adult use. And we've done this for long enough now that we really feel that we've demonstrated that we have the welfare and the safety of the citizens of Florida in mind, just like you do, Representative Mazzullo. And that's why we offer our assistance. And, you know, Ruta, we've been trying to knock that door down, you know, every year. And we get excited when we get a little crevice, you know, into the OMU world. The OMU actually referred the Safe Driving Council or Impaired Driving Commission, who wanted to speak to a group of doctors, to our group. So we're hopeful that we are going to get that seat at the table. And that is an amendment that I would have driven up overnight to Tallahassee to speak to, because I'm not going to speak to issues of legal adult use. I'm not going to speak to issues in the hemp space necessarily, except for safety and education.
Yeah, safety and education.
It's not our space. But
space.
this is our space. This is a space where we know that we can make impact with the discussion of appropriate policy. I mean, I think there is a compromise in the hemp space. I'm not a leader in the hemp space, and nobody has asked me. But what makes sense to me is a cap on the quote unquote psychoactive component, be it 8 and or 9. It's got to be tested at a state level for purity and safety, and then they get a safer Florida stamp. But listen, in a 10 milligram amount of 8 or 9 per gummy, I mean, I think that's going to be safe. It's got to be, it's got to be kid safe, of course.
The thing is, like, when people say we think it's going to be safe,
well, no, listen,
that's a dangerous thing. Because would you want to take a product if you think it's going to be safe? I would.
So I wouldn't want a newbie. I wouldn't want a newbie taking a 10 milligram Delta 9 gummy without reading that. Don't take all of this if this is your first time taking it. They may end up in the ER at 2:30 in the morning with an elevated heart rate and a $5,000 workup and go home in the morning. I got it. So, and the safety packaging and everything. And that's the one thing about, and I want to give great credit to the speakers that have been up in Tallahassee this year, you know, from the hemp space. They have applauded last year's changes, 21, right, and under, or 21 and over, excuse me, safe packaging, no kid, this, that, whatever. Listen, and that's why I think that the good cannabinoid purveyors, right, do deserve a place in the space. I want Jamie Treadwell and Colette Florido and the other excellent, and there's more, excellent cannabinoid purveyors to be able to provide my patients with those high quality CBD, CBG, CBN. Those are great things that the MMTC world doesn't necessarily supply. So there is a role for them, but once again,
but eventually the only other thing, like, and we talked about this too, I don't know, because if the MMTCs are wise and it goes full legal, my prediction is they're going to get into the CBD business, because one, they're already growing product anyways. They already have the manufacturing plants, the testing, they have all that in place. So why wouldn't you just roll it out? And it's $1 billion industry. I think at some point, though,
on the health and wellness side, for sure.
Yeah, I think
no doubt about it. There are going to be those that are going to focus that way. I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, they're going to start rolling.
That's why I think the cannabinoid purveyors, you know, got to be just terrified of legal adult use.
Yeah, I'm sure they're terrified of it.
Unless they think that they're going to be able to come in horizontally or to be able to continue to purvey their cannabinoids with even less, you know. But that's why the testing is so important.
The testing, and even how they grow, because like who's monitoring
all of it,
everything?
all
Nothing.
Of it.
So that's,
you know,
yeah, it's
for
a
sure.
little scary.
And then let's, so that's the third lane, you know, right now. And you know, so legacy market, of course, and nobody wants that. And then legal adult use. will come where it comes in with taxes, with, regulation on the amounts. That's why the representatives, as they discussed it over this session, it's interesting because I think it is preemptive. Representative Bartleman and Skidmore, good brain test again this morning for me, but no, they spoke to that this seems to be piecemealing, so to speak, and why pick on potency right now when we're going to discuss also amount and things of that nature. Listen, there's other things.
But again, like, I don't know if you're a business person and you're doing this, say like the legislators, you do have to start putting down the foundation somewhere.
Absolutely,
at some point. You don't want to have once it's there, all of a sudden be reactive and like, oh, now what do we do? At least it's
that may be, quite frankly, why it was postponed. Maybe they're adding in that type of stuff.
Yeah, they need to
if Rep. Mazzullo really wants the citizens to know what they're voting for,
yeah, I think,
and if they're planning on putting in a 1 ounce per month limit, so to speak, or something like that, a flower, then maybe they want to throw that in and kind of let people know.
It could be like, I don't know. Like I said, I think it's not a bad foundation. I think what Mazzullo is doing, I think for a preemption, I actually am not against it.
No, I for sure.
Yeah.
And I think even the advocate groups, it's been interesting, thanks to the green, it's funny. People say, no, I mean, getting a guest today was tough because everybody was going to be sitting in the House session, a lot of our normal guests,
But again, we should have had a football person on. But
no, like I said, that's what's going. Isn't that something?
Yeah, that
and this guy, sports guy, I know, sandbox guy.
Preempted this, but no, there's a lot because like we thought it was going to be so quiet this year.
We did.
And it was the reverse.
Listen, there's 2 other bills today. So Eric Stevens up in Tallahassee this morning. I was actually going to have him come on for just a second. We're literally from outside the House hearing, but I didn't get back to him because, listen, he's got 2 more bills this morning. There's the transportation bill, interestingly, that has a discussion of impairment, actually, with some cannabis language in there. I haven't read it. And there's also another discussion about residential treatment centers and things of that nature, excluding cannabis, though, because, people with cards, like last year's bill. And we didn't get a chance to comment on that. And, that's a real pertinent discussion because, we do have a lot of patients that aid their recovery. I know it's hard, for a lot of people to accept that in the recovery world, but they do. They tell us every day. And that's alcohol and opiates. And so we do believe that it is
that one senator who was like really against
well, that's Senator Osgood. And listen, it's important because she's a Democrat, and typically they tend to vote, in positive in most cannabis things, but and I applaud her for her recovery. I mean, and I mean it. She says that she smoked her first joint at age 13, and I don't want to tell her story, but it ultimately ended up homeless and this and that. And now she's a state senator. It's great, but that's gateway theorism. But the only other thing is,
if you listen to her comments, this is the other thing, and she needs to kind of backtrack on what she says, because one of the things I want to call her out on for the cannabis, that anti-cannabis stance that she has, is she said she's like, I'm recovering, and this was like, led me up to being, basically homeless. But she said it's cannabis and other substances. So what were your other substances that were probably the cause of that whole homelessness? Not the cannabis per se, but I think it was the combination of her whatever else she was putting into herself.
Well, for sure. Like, she talked about her wiring and addictive personality, and I don't disagree with any of that. Believe me when I tell you,
people, and they're all different. But
absolutely,
like I said, I think she needs to not just bash cannabis. I think she needs to out whatever else she was on.
Well, there's
caused that.
The gateway theory has always been, one of those, Sam, smart, whatever, Kevin Sabet and all that. They still hang their hat on gateway theorism, and it's been proven, by research and this and that, to really not be pertinent in the cannabis world. But we're always going to fight that, stigma. But we're all, listen, in the developing brain under age 25, for sure. And that's why those discussions need to be had in the medical setting.
Absolutely.
And once again, just one last shout out to Dr. Mazzullo. As a doctor, I was so pleased to see that he recognized the usefulness and the benefits of cannabis.
Well, you have to have your head in the sand, honestly. If you truly in 2024 don't see medical benefits from cannabis, and again, it's not, we still need a ton of research as to what really is working, what's not working. There's a lot to be done, but you have to give kudos kudos where kudos is due. And for him to actually say he wants to, you know, protect medical, and then even the other senators, they kept referring back when the CBD purveyors were on, to say, well, don't we have a medical program that already does this, that treats patients, you know? And I think, again, shout out to the Senate. I really was really pleasantly surprised as how they stuck with the medical in support of it. So
It'll be important as the years
it
go
is.
by.
It's going
We
to
know,
be
we
more and
know
more
that.
important. And you
you
see
know.
it even in other states, like where all of a sudden you see them go full rec, and their programs are a mess in a lot of states. And then they're pulling back and they're, you know, changing laws, and they're doing that. So we actually have to learn from what the other states do too. And I think somebody needs to do, whether it's, you know, Kimball or somebody from the OMMU too, should do some reaching out to other states who went full rec and see what the downfalls were, and see how they're now backtracking from all of them. All the states that had it are backtracking. So we need to take a look at that and say, like, hey, all right, like, let's not reinvent the wheel. Other states have done it and they failed miserably on some things. Let's see what they failed at and let's not repeat it. So I think we have to wrap up.
I know, how can that be? I was just reading a little thing that, you know, Eric just sent me from Tallahassee. So yeah, the meeting was postponed, or the hearing was postponed for certain language that is being added, you know, and everything. So they're continuing to buff and polish up there.
Good.
And we'll be keeping an eye on every bit of it. Listen, like I said, there's 2 more hearings today, and there'll be others. So, and I guess there's a Super Bowl.
Yeah. So happy Super Bowl Sunday to everybody who's gonna watch. I'll watch.
Stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy the commercials.
Commercials and halftime show.
Of
That's all I
course.
care about. So,
See you next week,
see you,
everybody.
Bye.